Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. In the wake of Mother's Day, I want to say a little bit about Kevin Durant, NBA MVP. In a very impassioned speech, Durant said that his mother was the MVP because she was able to provide for him and his brother when they were little. He remembered all the really decrepit and poor places that they lived in, homes that had no furniture, small, poorly heated apartments, and how his mother sometimes went hungry so that he and his brother could have food. And he really appreciated all the sacrifices his mother had made. And a lot of times we don't recognize that, all the parental sacrifices so that children can be successful.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why he was MVP, because LeBron James, again, should have been MVP, but he's the second best player. He's very close, was very close to him this year. Great guy. Has never said anything crazy like LeBron has, and he represents the NBA well. So I'm glad he got it, and that showed the type of guy he is.
All right. Another controversial decision this week came with omitting Landon Donovan, a perennial World Cup player for the United States, off the American team. Jurgen Klinsmann is the coach, and they have a long history together, and I think Klinsmann felt disrespected in the past by Donovan. Donovan's coach, Bruce Arena of the LA Galaxy, said, if there's 23 players on the U.S. team better than Donovan, then we have a chance to win the World Cup.
Yeah, and didn't Donovan have a problem with the coach's son, they said?
Well, I guess the son tweeted something like, Donovan left off, ha-ha, something like that.
But yeah, he's the leading goal scorer. He's 32. They said he lost a step. Right after that, he scored 2 goals. He plays for LA, right?
Right. Now, he's scored more goals in World Cup competition than Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, and Lionel Messi combined, which is not to say that he's better than those players, just he's been a very productive player, and that's really what it comes down to. You really want to get players who can make a contribution. There's been a lot of other discussion. There were a number of German-American players on the team, and there was discussion that Klinsmann had favored them over Donovan. Who would even know that?
No, it's going to come down to how they do. If they don't do well, they can't score goals. He's going to get blasted, the coach. But again, Donovan's 32. He's a leader. You always want leaders on the team. I don't care if they've slipped a little. He showed in that game last week when he scored 2 goals. Those were his first 2 goals, though. So well, you don't know why, but you always want one of the leaders in the team.
Well, the U.S. is in the group with Ghana, Germany, and Portugal, and they'll be lucky to win 1 game. Nobody really thinks they're going to advance to the second round anyway.
Well, didn't they beat Ghana last time when they played? Wasn't Ghana in their section and they beat them?
Yeah, Ghana's got a pretty good team, I guess, so we'll find out. Now, locally, big controversy, obviously the very disturbing case of Jerry Remy's son ultimately pleading guilty to murder, and he'll be in life imprisonment. And the issue is, what's Remy's status? Should this affect it at all? He's missed a number of games, probably just trying to collect his thoughts and let some time pass between the plea and his next broadcast. Obviously, some of the fans don't want to hear lighthearted Remy banter with Don Orsillo. I don't know the right answer. To me, I think he deserves a right to earn a living and work. I don't know that I'm going to make any judgment of him as a parent. I think he cared about his son, probably tried to do what he could to support his son over time. Obviously, that didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Jerry Remy to, hopefully he keeps the job. They took a poll on, I don't know if it was Nesson or another station, but it was 67% said they want him to stay on. So you have 33% saying no. So if they can him, you got 67% of the people. I don't know if they're going to be completely upset, but I think he has a right to stay on. I want to see him stay on. I like to hear from him. They've had some other good people there too. I like Eckersley the best, but he's busy with the national TV. I think the Major League Baseball. But I'm rooting for him. Him and his wife have gone through a ton. It's unbelievable what they've gone through.
Obviously, he's lost his son. He's had issues with his other children. He's not going to see a lot of his grandchild. I'm sure he didn't try to fight for custody of the grandchild appropriately. So
well, that one, I'm glad that happened because originally they did.
Yeah,
And they decided not to go through with that, but originally they were going to fight it.
So, when we watch sports and root for players, managers, ownership, it doesn't mean they're great people. Somebody can be maybe not a great person and have a significant role in sports. I mean, a lot of people aren't in love with Bill Belichick, but he's been very successful being a coach. Does he have to be a great person to be a great coach? No.
When you talk about quickly about Sterling, right? He had a bad day, but he's had a ton of bad days. You can tell he's had a ton of bad days in the past. That wasn't probably his worst day. He's probably had days just like that when he got taped. But you wonder, with other national people, what they saying, when no one knows and no one knows what's going on in their home.
Well, periodically we'll hear politicians who have an open mic and they say something they wish they hadn't said. But we know that everyone says different things in private than they say in public. And a private conversation, obviously it reflects how you feel about something, but should you be judged on everything that you say? I don't know. Right,
and I talk to people now about that, and I roll my eyes with things they say about certain situations. Like people talking to me who I know pretty good from work, people that come in that I know, then they'll say stuff to me just talking to me, and I'll say, you gotta be kidding me. But I'm the type, I never go to anybody to talk about someone who said something. That's one thing. I tell them I want to hear it sometimes, but that's going on throughout the country, throughout the world, Ron. It's going on. Don't think that, when you talk about these different rights, gay rights and all that, it's going on all over the place.
We know that every phone conversation, every email, every text gets potentially reviewed by some anonymous computer system to make sure that there's no national security implication. Now, it's pretty far away from sports, but the issue isn't your or my opinion about Indonesia. It's really whether our opinion or some politician's opinion is being used to compromise their ability to do their job. Can you say, we caught this on tape about this politician and we're going to change his vote by blackmailing him, in effect. So, and then the same thing kind of works for Sterling. He's losing his ownership of the team, or he may. I don't know if he fights it long enough. An illegal conversation.
It's going to be a battle. If he fights it, it's going to go to. It could be 2 or 3 years, like we talked about. If he fights it,
it's not going to be pretty.
But I don't know why they didn't sit down and talk it over with him and say, listen, this is the best thing. With the lawyers, you start putting pressure on someone like him, he's not going to back down. I'll tell you got to talk to him.
Oh, he spent his life as a personal injury lawyer. He's no wallflower. We know he knows to take out a battle. Well, only in Boston can we spend a whole day talking about a 10-year celebration of the World Series. And Manny Ramirez's faux apology or real apology, whatever, for his misbehavior as a citizen of the Boston Red Sox.
He's just not all there. He's just not all there. I don't believe anything he says. The guy's not a good guy. He didn't go to the White House. He never went to a hospital, never sponsored the Jimmy Fund at all. He said no to everything they asked him to do.
Well, it's all about Manny, and this is consistent with
the steroids didn't help either.
Right. And I'm sure he wants to advance his post-playing career, whether it's announcing, coaching, representing the Red Sox or other teams at events. He wants to be able to continue to make some money from baseball. So he needs to rehabilitate his image. Whether that's possible, I don't really know. He apologized to Jack McCormick, the traveling secretary who he pushed down, who wouldn't give him tickets.
They say he must need money. I don't know how he needs money. He was making 20-something million.
Yeah, you're making $20 million a year for 7 years. You ought to be able to save a little.
He must have made about $150 million. You kidding me? What do you do with the money?
I bet he made over $200 million for his whole career. But
how's he? He's not a guy you can respect. I don't know what Epstein's thinking about, but going back to Epstein's deals with the Red Sox, you probably know why he did that. He's just not. He's not a real good general manager. Things aren't going right for the Chicago Cubs now, so he thought he'd bring in a name, which is a name no one respects. So I don't even know what he's thinking about.
I think it was in 1967, after the Impossible Dream year, that Ken Coleman, former announcer, on the record, The Impossible Dream had a brief poem, saying something about a lengthy road trip beckoned. Look at them go, 10 in a row, and now our kids are second. Well, the Red Sox just reeled off 10 in a row losses. So things have really changed.
Well, you watch baseball. Like I said all along, there's like 10 seasons of baseball. There's so many games. I mean, you can go through a slump. You lose 10 in a row. It's different than any other sport. You lose 10 in a row, you come back and win 9 out of 10. You're back in it, feeling good. In baseball is a sport where if mentally you start losing it a little and things go bad, it's tough to get it back, especially when you don't have the pitching. Other than Lester and Lackey's pitching pretty good. It's tough there. The rest of the guys aren't really doing a good job.
You look at a kid like Bogarts. He played his whole life in 78 to 83 degree weather that was perfect, being from Aruba. So who would think that when it's 35 degrees in Chicago, that wouldn't affect his ability to swing the bat, field, throw? I mean, we know how miserable it is to play baseball in the spring up here, but he's really not used to it. Now the weather's heated up a bit, he's playing better defensively. He's probably the second best hitter on the team right now.
And they want him to bat third, so you may see him batting third. You may see Pedroia second. I don't know if they're going to put first. That's a problem.
I think before I said that when Napoli slid into second head first and dislocated his finger, which I think was his index finger, Tony Maserati said, well, just pop it back in and play. It's fine. What's the matter with you? Well, you use the outside fingers to grasp the bat. And when your finger hurts because it's swollen, because it's been dislocated, and will stay that way for a month, you just can't go out there and be productive. So Napoli came back after a few days, totally didn't hit for 3 weeks, then he went onto the disabled list because he couldn't play. So if you're somebody who doesn't know anything about an injury, why comment and say the player's going to be fine?
Ortiz is the big guy. I mean, if he hits like he used to hit, I don't know how he can keep hitting. You know my feeling about him.
Well, the amazing thing this year is everybody's got a shift on for them. I mean, regular players have huge shifts, and obviously it's affecting a lot of them.
And like a lot of coaches have said, players will adjust to it and start going the opposite field. Some do. No, Ortiz can go to left. I'm surprised he doesn't, because, he doesn't hit as many home runs as he used to hit. So, especially in Fenway, you go to left with the wall.
Well, I guess he doesn't have as much power, obviously, especially on the road. And, he still wants to hit the way he wants to hit. But, hitting is difficult. Look at, for example, Jacoby Ellsbury. He's gone to the Yankees. He's played 50 games. How much of an impact has he had? Okay, he had a walk-off home run the other day. So far, Ellsbury is hitting .268 with 2 home runs. He's scored 25 runs, has 14 stolen bases, and his OPS is 724. That's not $21, $22 million a year, production. And at the end of the day, it's really about what you're doing.
Well, what is a $21 million production?
I don't know.
Tell me who, Cabrera?
Be like Hank Aaron. Yeah.
No, Cabrera maybe, no one else. All these players, look at Sabathia. Are you kidding me, $25 million a year? Who is earning their money? That's what I want to know. But Ellsbury, the Yankees, the Red Sox are worse off by letting Ellsbury go. The Yankees are better off by getting Ellsbury. That's all. As a Yankee fan, that's all. I don't care about the money because the Yankees have so much money, it doesn't matter.
Well, it depends what production he does. Now, for example, last year the Red Sox scored 200 more runs than the Yankees. So far this year, Toronto, in about 50 games, has scored 55 more runs than the Red Sox. So it's going to be pretty hard for the Red Sox to compete against the Blue Jays if they can't score any runs. And the Red Sox are 11th in runs scored in the American League right now, and they're not showing really great team hitting. You look at the lineup tonight. You've got Lavarnway in there, Ross is in there, Bradley. They got a lot of guys who are, barely around the Mendoza line.
They got Drew coming back in a week.
Oh, okay. And he
230 hitter.
He hit 120 in the postseason last year, so he's going to turn the team around.
He's getting $10 million for.
Yeah, and I wonder if Scott Boras is making up the other 4. Here, Stephen, don't worry. I'm not going to cost you a nickel.
Was that the dumbest move? $14.1 million for him. He could have got that. Then if he had a half-decent year, could have got a good contract after that. It's unbelievable when you think about the move they made.
Well, it definitely makes you wonder about some of these guys' decision making. Now, there was an interesting interview with Brad Stevens in Men's Health recently, and he talked about coaching. They asked him, "Oh, are you really as calm on the inside as you are on the outside?" And he said, "Are you crazy? No, not at all." But he said, there are many different ways to succeed in coaching. You can be a loud person who yells at players, like a lot of different coaches, or you can communicate with them in other ways. Players have to understand that the more they can do to help themselves by learning the game and also by developing their body in the gym, that helps. Steven says the game is not just about size, it's about athleticism. Now you see all the teams have tremendously athletic players, but he said the bottom line, no matter what team you're on or who your coaching is, production. If you don't produce, you're going to be judged on that.
Yeah, but nothing he can do, even though he's one of the best coaches, they say in college or pros, he's very knowledgeable. In the NBA, there's nothing he can do to make them better unless he gets better players.
No.
You can't win with Rondo. I mean, you can't win with Rondo. I don't know if people are going to realize that. Forget Rondo. You can't have a team with Rondo as a point guard.
Well, we're going to have to get back to that in our next segment. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We enjoy high school sports, youth sports at other levels, but there's big money and big commitment for these programs. And when you see the high school athletes out there, there's a lot of expense, not only on athletic fees and equipment, but for off-season training. And just to give you an example, when my daughters played volleyball for Smash many years ago, per person it was $1,600 per season, and that didn't cover all the travel expense. And we know that there's a lot of other expenses that go, which can be gym or Y expenditures, additional health costs, additional equipment costs, personal trainers for some of the players, sports-specific trainers. Players have hitting coaches, they have pitching coaches. Parents are shelling out a lot of money to support their kids' dreams.
Yeah, and look at it. I've talked about this on other shows too. I mean, they are. And with basketball, we were just talking about that basketball is not as, if you're playing through our program, it's not as expensive as lacrosse, soccer, hockey. I mean, those are really expensive. And you look at it, and the thing that bothers me, these kids are so committed. They're so into it in youth sports and middle schools, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And the one thing I think that should be changed, and I think that there should be a meeting with the athletic director in regard to that. You got the total commitment by these kids and these parents when they're younger, in middle school, even before then. They're putting out the money, and then they're going into high school, And half these coaches don't even know who these kids are coming up. They don't know who's talented, who isn't talented. And I know we've been upset about your basketball tryouts when there's 2 days and you got to decide who's making varsity and who should be on varsity and who shouldn't be on varsity. I really believe that there's a problem when kids are going from middle school to high school, again, because Coach Kelly knows who's coming up. He has his, he has his programs, he has his summer, camps. So he knows the kids from when they're in youth, but a lot of these coaches don't. And that's what I feel should be changed. I think these coaches, we've seen it with our kids. They go through a tremendous experience in middle school, going up to high school excited about playing high school basketball, or whatever. And we're looking at it through basketball run, and most of the kids are coming back and saying, hey, we had a better experience in middle school than we had in high school.
Well, I can tell you my personal experience. I was a walk-on on a Division I college baseball team. I wasn't playing, I was just on the team. There's no big cachet associated with that. Now, when I was a young player, sophomore in high school, I was on the varsity baseball team in Wakefield, and I said to the coach, I'm not playing, which is fine. I don't have any claim to play. I'll be more than happy to go down to JV and pitch regularly so I'll have a chance to get better, because in the long run it's about improvement. I'm not worried about what level I'm at. I just want to play and try to work to improve my game. And that, I got accommodated. I got sent down to JV. It was no big deal. I had fun, and presumably I got a little bit better as a player. So as a player, or a coach, you have to be a little bit self-reflective and say, what do I need to do to improve myself, to keep working so that I can be a productive player going forward. If you just say, well, I want to be on the varsity, I don't really care whether I play, I need to get status. Well, what status is there being on a team, especially a team that's not successful?
But you look at players, Ron, we've seen it through basketball a lot, and there's other sports. As good as the volleyball program is, there are parents that are upset that their kids aren't playing as much as other kids because they think they're as good. It happens in all sports.
Sure.
And we see it. But, we see it because we know the kids that are coming up to play in basketball, and we see how, and again, they have a new coach. They have a new coach up there, so she doesn't know all the talent that's coming up, but she should have. Well, that's the problem. That's what really upset me. She should have known who these kids were through the summer, and she didn't, and they lost the summer program.
I'd encourage everyone to read an article in this month's Reader's Digest, June, and it talks about a teacher's experience since Columbine. And she's an elementary school teacher, and what she does is every week, at the end of the week, she gives the kids a questionnaire and says, what four of your classmates would you like to sit with and spend the most time with? And she just tallies up the totals. And she doesn't look for the kids that are popular. She looks for the kids who never show up. And she spends time with those kids. She gets them with other kids. And she does everything she can to make those kids more accepted, more integrated in the whole classroom experience. Because she says, it's more important for me to work with the socialization of the kids who are being left behind than the popular kids. And it's the same way sometimes in sports. We don't just spend time with the kids who are having success. You have to help the players who need help and want to work to improve themselves. You don't know what a player is going to be, but everybody cares about how you feel about them.
Yeah, that's what I said last year about the freshman team, basketball team. It's almost like they're left out. No one really cares about them. You very rarely see because they're playing after the JV games most of the time. They're watching the JV games, but the freshmen are playing in another gym, maybe on the premises or in another school. And those kids, and I know they feel left out. I know a couple of players that were on the freshman team who should not have been on the freshman team.
Well, and they're young players.
They feel like things aren't going right for them. And some of them just feel like just giving up at times because they see the future and they see the coach doesn't have the same feeling about them as she does with other players who they know they're as good as. So that's a tough situation in all sports.
Oh, absolutely. And what you really want is opportunity, and you want to have some fairness. You know that people gave you a reasonable shot to show that you could compete. And obviously the first thing, I know how you feel about basketball. If you said the number one issue for you is commitment, Is the player committed to becoming the best player they can be? Some people can't be there because they have other sports to do, they have school activity, piano lessons, whatever it is, that's fine. That doesn't mean they're not committed, it just means they have other activities that also are important to them.
Yeah, but like look at the group we have now, right? They're going to be going into 7th grade. And you look at them, how hard they work in the summer. I mean, they come to the summer practice. The other day when it was cold out, Tuesday, these girls worked extremely hard. I mean, they gave everything they had in practice. It reminded me of the last group we had.
Yeah, the players are very committed, and I'm sure the same exists for soccer and lacrosse and volleyball. All these young players, they want to be successful, they want to work hard, they want direction, and they want a good experience so they can become good players. But if you want to become a good player, you have to develop your understanding of the game, no matter whatever the sport you're participating in. You have to maximize your athleticism, and you don't need a lot of expensive equipment. If you want to run up and down stairs at the middle school football field, that'll help develop your conditioning, your legs, your jumping ability. You don't need parachutes and weight belts and everything else. And of course, you got to keep working on sport-specific skills. If you say, well, I have really great skills but really terrible attitude, that's not going to work for you. But if you have a great attitude and no skills, that won't work either.
Yeah, and you see that, and we get so invested in these kids, with the group we have now and the last group that went up, and when you see something going wrong there, when you see a player treated, badly in a way, not treated properly because they don't understand this player, they don't understand the skills this player has, they don't understand what this player has to work on, that's what I'm talking about. There should be more of a commitment from the high school coaches to talk to the coaches who have coached these kids for 4 years to see what we think about them when they're going up. Same thing in football, they got the football program, same thing in lacrosse. I don't know what they're doing in those other sports, in softball or whatever, talking to coaches. What does this player have to work on to be really good? They don't know. I mean, they don't know. And then we see this year, and you don't want to talk about named players on the show or whatever, but we saw our starting point guard was considered the third point guard on the JV team, hardly played. And anybody who knows the game, when she got in the games, knew that her knowledge of playing the point was better than the other girls that were playing it. And the coach just didn't know enough on bringing her, to the next level. Same thing with, one player that I've talked about a lot is Victoria Crovo. See, they didn't know enough about Victoria, which she had to work on to become a star in high school. Well, they just lost a year. They lost a year with Victoria because Victoria next year as a sophomore should have been an all-star in that. She still may be if they understand her, but as a sophomore, she should have been an all-star. She should be an all-star in the Middlesex League, and she should have been, as this year went on, a starter on the varsity. But again, they don't communicate with the coaches that know her. They don't know enough about her. They don't know what to work on, and that's what happens. It's almost a lost year.
Certainly there's a very old movie named Risky Business, and Matthew Broderick's in this movie, and there's one scene, as well as Tom Cruise, where they're driving the Porsche in a high-test fashion, and somebody says, "Porsche, there is no substitute." And in almost every sport, there's no substitute for fundamentals. You just have to go over the fundamentals over and over and over again. And you look at the top team, one of the top teams is the San Antonio Spurs. Well, what's interesting about the Spurs? You have Tim Duncan, who's from the Caribbean. Tony Parker, France. Manu Ginobili, Argentina. Serge Ibaka, I think he's from the Congo. They have a lot of foreign-born and foreign-trained players who got great fundamentals. One of the best basketball websites that maybe people go to, maybe they don't, is FIBA.com, FIBA.com, where there's just so many terrific instructional videos on fundamental basketball. And if you don't have great fundamentals, it's pretty hard to succeed, no matter what your athleticism is. So that would be my plea to people. If you really care about a sport, become fundamentally outstanding about it. And I think when you look at yourself, if you said, if I looked at myself 5 years ago as a coach and said, what's my number one weakness? It would be not teaching fundamentals, but not understanding how best to incorporate X's and O's into game strategy. And one of the great coaches of all time passed away recently, Don Meyer from Northern State, I believe won over 900 games. Just a wonderful coach, and he's written so much about basketball, and he says, in addition to playing hard, playing smart, and playing together, to be successful, you need a delay game offensively and defensively. That is, you get behind by 4 points in the last few minutes, you got to be able to do something. You just can't stand there and let the other team do what they want. You've got to be able to control the ball if you're ahead. You've got to have a comeback game, and you better be able to make free throws. And it's unconscionable the way young players struggle on free throws. The only way they're struggling is they're not working enough to make them.
Well, what happened to last year's team, who people said they didn't have enough talent on the team, and that's why they lost 17 games in a row. But, it comes down to, like you're saying, fundamentals. How many times did we turn the ball over? How many opportunities did we lose out on because we couldn't get a shot, because we were turning the ball over and the other team was going into transition? I mean, it's the type of game you've got to work, like skills, you've got to work on. What do we work on all the time with the girls?
Oh, we work on handling the ball, passing the ball, cutting and passing.
Playing the game fast.
The simple part of basketball and many sports is, number one, you've got to dominate on possession. You've got to, when you have the ball, you've got to take care of the ball. When you don't have the ball, you've got to either rebound the ball, or defensively, you've got to be able to create steals, turnovers, force the other team to miss shots and make miscues. And then the other part is getting quality shots versus not allowing the other team to get quality shots. And rather than play 5 or 10 different defenses, get really good at playing one defense. If you're going to be Syracuse, you're going to play 2-3 zone the whole game, or Michigan and play a lot of 1-3-1. That's fine. If you're going to do that the vast majority of the time, that's great. But most of the top college teams, whether it's women like UConn, Duke men, UConn men, they're playing man-to-man defense, and they're in your face.
Well, that's how UConn won, both teams.
Both teams, that's how they won. They excelled at playing man-to-man defense. And if you don't know how to play man-to-man defense, you're not going anywhere.
Well, Ron, like we've talked about it a number of times. This last year's freshman class, they won all the time because of their defense. They were great. They were a great defensive team. Now you go up to high school, and you broke. Some of them are playing freshmen, some of them are playing JV, some are varsity. They're not playing with the same players, but it's imperative that the coaches up there understand it, and that's the problem. They don't. You can go over it. I don't want to keep knocking, but what I don't like is these girls were totally committed for 4 years, and at least half of the girls are not excited about basketball the way they were when they were going up there, and that's a big-time problem. If you have half of the girls on a tremendous middle school team going up there that are not as excited about basketball as they were when they left there when they were 8th graders, there's a problem.
Well, we'll switch gears to the Celtics, and everyone wants to talk about Kevin Love. We're going to give three first-round draft choices in Sullinger for Kevin Love. We're going to give 4 first-round draft choices. Forget about Kevin Love. The pivotal decision for the Boston Celtics is, what do they do about Rajon Rondo? And to me, Rondo's a guy who cares a lot more about the name on the back of the shirt than the name on the front of the shirt.
Well, they've got to trade him. I don't care what they do. I mean, I would think if they're going to go for Love, but Rondo would not sign with Minnesota because it's going to be his last year. So forget about it. Just do what Minnesota's going to do with Love. They're going to trade Love, even though Love only has 1 year left. So Rondo's in the same situation. Some teams will want someone like the Lakers. Trade him. You got to get rid of Rondo. You have to rebuild this team. Rondo has to go.
Well, somebody was mentioning, this would be interesting, trading Rondo and something else for Westbrook. But the idea is Rondo's a pass-first guy and Westbrook's a shoot-first guy. So it might be a good move to get Durant the ball more, which Rondo would certainly do.
The only way that Oklahoma would do that is if the Celtics gave a #1 draft pick to.
Oh yeah, no, they have to get.
There's no way. They don't want Rondo.
They probably make him take Perkins back.
There are 16 teams in the NBA that don't want Rondo. They're happy with their point guards. I mean, Rondo thinks he's like one of the top. He's not one of the top point guards in basketball. He's not. He hurts the teams. He was successful because he played with Pierce, Allen, and
They had
Garnett.
3 Hall of Fame players.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. If anybody knows anything about basketball, the reason why the owners want him is because the young kids like his flashiness. That's what they like. They like that he can go be fake behind his back and go up there, which 1,000 people can do if they wanted to. I mean, they look at that stuff. But anybody who knows the game knows that they have to get rid of Rondo when they rebuild. Ainge knows he's got to get rid of Rondo. But, he's not showing it because he doesn't want these other teams to think they know, but he doesn't want them to think that because they won't give him anything. But what's he going to get for Rondo anyway? What is a team going to give him for Rondo? They may give a team with a 12th pick may give their 12th pick for Rondo.
Right, I agree. You maybe get a middle of the first round draft choice, which really they don't need right now. They've got a ton of draft choices coming forward, and they could have 3 first round draft choices next year, depending on how it goes.
And then what they do, if they can trade Rondo and get a 10th pick in the draft, pick Napier as the 17th pick. There's like 3 guards they're talking about that they can get with their 17th pick. I'd rather see Napier at point guard, Rondo go, and then get some other, get the 6th pick, whoever that 6th pick. They're talking Gordon maybe, a guard from UCLA, but rebuild that way. And then, if Ainge talks to Love and Love says, yeah, I'd come, but an Ainge would have to say, we have to trade Rondo for you in a number 1. But even then, someone like Love, even though he's a 3rd leading scorer, 26 points, 13 rebounds.
Yeah.
What did he do for Minnesota? I mean, he's a great player, but he alone is not. You need the quick guards.
Well, we agree that the first thing is you got to move Rondo. We'll be right back.
Greetings, sports fans. The Boston Bruins. I'm still not over that. I am. You know what? We're going back. But the reason I want to talk about the Bruins and Canadians is because, yes, that team with the toilet seat for a logo got eliminated by the New York Rangers. And I have never been more happy to root for a New York team. But I digress. Because it's not about the New York team. It's about the Bruins and what they can do to actually get to where New York is going now, which is Stanley Cup Finals. Well, I don't know. I thought this Bruins team was good enough. I know they're good enough. I actually think they have a phenomenal coaching staff. I think the organization from top to bottom is better than it has ever been. But I think they were outcoached by the Canadians. To put it mildly, I think they got lulled into playing the Canadians' game. But hey, that's like 2 weeks ago, right? The Bruins have been golfing all over the country now. Who cares about that? Well, I care. Okay, so personally, I'm looking at it. What do they need to do to get back to where they are? Back to where they were when they went to the Cup last year and they won the Cup in 2011. What do they have to do? Well, win. A couple of thoughts I have, though. Luch, I thought, was going to be Cam Neely. And, Melrose has Cam Hickey. He could probably do a better job than what Lucic did. To be honest with you, I think he was probably more of the problem than he was the answer, because I don't think he played up to potential. Marchand or whatever you want to call him, was he there? I mean, I saw a little pest on the ice, and that's what we need him to be. He's our pest. We love him. We'd hate his guts if he was in any other uniform, but hey, we like him. Well, then again, maybe we don't like him because he didn't play all that well. Okay? And Tuukka Rask. I think that we're all starting to realize that Tim Thomas really did steal that cup from Vancouver. I'm not saying the whole team didn't play well. The Bruins played great in beating Vancouver in that series a few years ago. I don't know. I just have these visions of Tuukka getting faked out on a breakaway by a defenseman. Okay? Now, It's not an ordinary defenseman. It's PK Subban or Subin or Sabino or whatever we want to call him. We'd love to see him in a Bruins uniform, wouldn't we? We call him all kinds of names now, and I'm not talking about those disgusting racist names that idiots tweeted, because I'll tell you, I don't care what color the guy is. Peace and love, man. If we can get that guy in a Bruins uniform, having that slap shot from the point, come on. Let's get him. Sign him up. I don't know. I don't know what Lucic's motivation is going to have to be to play better. You know, we have all the pieces in place, I believe. But if I may get off topic for a minute, let's get back to those toilet seat wearing Canadians, shall we? Wow, that was nice, huh? I think they sucked the Bruins into playing their game, and that's why they beat us. But guess what? They had nothing left for New York. I think they played totally over their head in beating the Bruins, and that's why New York is probably going to be a sacrificial lamb for either the Kings or the Blackhawks, because I really believe right now, I mean, the Western Conference is that deep. St. Louis Blues didn't even make it. And St. Louis would have given any of the top 3 teams in the East, never mind a run for their money, I think they probably would have been skating around with the cup. So the Bruins have that to worry about next year. Representing the East is no guarantee at a cup. Couple of things that they could do, like I said, is maybe re-examine some of these players that they got. You know, is Lucic going to be that guy? I don't know. It was Marchand a one-year wonder? I don't know. We still have Bergeron, one of the best two-ways. You know, you can't have enough defensive forwards. Defense is what's going to win you the game. Seidenberg will be back next year on defense. If they made it to the next round, he might have been back, but what are you going to do? That's the way it goes. But you know what? One thing I can say for sure, it's sometimes, you know, if you can't root for your team, you root against somebody else, right? Because that's what we do around here. Us cynical Boston fans. Well, you know what? I didn't take too much pleasure in Canadians losing. Yeah, I did. Truthfully, I have 2 favorite teams, and this has always been this way in hockey. Boston Bruins and anybody playing the Canadians. And guess what? Nobody's playing the Canadians. As far as I'm concerned, Subban, maybe you could give Lucic a call. He'll tell you where the golf courses are.
Welcome back. Now, Ralph, I have a legal question for you. As a worker in the judicial system, if somebody comes into your court and they've been picked up with numerous types of prescription drugs on their person and $29,000 in cash, is that going to go well for them?
No, it's going to either be trafficking or possession with intent to distribute.
Well, obviously in the National Football League, things may differ. And there's a huge debate going on right now as to what happens to Jim Irsay, billionaire owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who want to have a Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and the Players Association who are saying Roger Goodell hammers a player at the first sign of trouble, and an owner gets in big trouble, and pretty much there's crickets.
Who was he charged with? Did
He got a misdemeanor for drug possession.
And he had a bunch of, what do you have, prescription drugs?
He had prescription drugs.
And thousands of dollars on them.
$29,000.
They could have charged him with possession with intent. They could have charged him with a felony.
So, you know, the issue is there a double standard at work?
Of course. How about the end for the Browns who got caught with marijuana? Marijuana, he's going to end up being suspended for a year because it's a second offense? I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Josh Gordon to miss a season, which is, you know, enormous in a player's lifetime, versus Irsay probably get probation.
I mean, another couple of years, marijuana is going to be like alcohol, pretty much.
Well, the Patriots had a busy offseason so far. You know, I guess I'm concerned. I would love to see Brady throwing the football or talking football or doing something instead of at a racetrack or some other social event. You know,
and he's the worst dancer in the world. I don't know why he gets caught on video dancing.
Well, I just think that for a multimillionaire, you ought to get a new wardrobe. I think his wife intentionally dresses him up, try to look like a clown to keep the other women away from him.
But I think you talk about the draft, though, Ron. I'm happy with the draft except for the second pick. You know, I would have liked a tight end.
Yeah.
You know?
Now the issue with Garoppolo, obviously he didn't play at the upper echelon of football, although he performed well against good teams. And we don't know what this issue is about his hands. Now, they measure quarterbacks' hand size from the pinky to the end of the thumb, and the average NFL quarterback is 9 5/8 inches, which is exactly how big my hands are. Now, Garoppolo is 9 1/4, which is only
9 5/8 inches? Or
9 5/8 versus 9 1/4. So it's that much difference. I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah, it's 9 2/8 compared to 9 5/8.
Right, it's 3/8. So it's that much. Is that going to make a big difference in how you can hold a football? I don't know.
So they're talking about that?
That's a big deal. There's always this talk about, the guy can jump 36 inches and his broad jump is 10 feet. Well, I wanted guys who can play football. I bet Brewski couldn't jump 12 feet, but he could play football.
I could see it was like, if it was like 1 5/8 compared to 1 2/8, but it's 9 5/8 compared to 9 2/8.
We were playing North Attleboro, and Brewski was coaching, his assistant coach on the other team, and I was like way bigger than he was. So I don't know how big he must have lost 70 pounds. But,
well, you know how they build up.
Yeah, I know they build up, but anyway.
But that's the only thing, Ron. The only thing that, if they could have got him in like the 3rd or 4th round, I would have been.
Well, I love the fact that they picked some big stud linemen.
Well, they're all set in the offensive line now. You kidding me?
Right.
They're very, very high on 2 of the offensive linemen. What is this?
Stork from Florida State.
Is the best center in the country coming out, and they're talking highly of him.
And this
the kid from Stanford.
Yeah, Jalapio. Cameron, I think is the other kid. But, so that was the problem, being bull rushed up the middle, so that Brady, the guy from the Broncos, was just charging right up the middle with no opposition.
But, and then their first pick was real good, too, Easley.
Right.
Easley was real good. I mean, people saying, well, he's got two ACL tears. Yeah, but if he's healthy, I would take that chance on him, because if he's healthy, remember we talk how much we talk about the rush up the middle. They had no rush up the middle. You got a guy like him who can rush up the middle quick, spin. That's going to be unbelievable. Then the guys that rush from the outside, Ninkovich and Jones, they'll be that much more effective. And then with the cornerbacks they have now,
The other announcement is the National Football League basically announced that for the 2014-2015 season that they were going to be expanding the playoffs to 14 teams. So presumably there'd be a extra round of playoffs. But
so 3 wildcard teams.
Right. So I guess you'd have 7 versus 2, 6 versus 3, 5 versus 4, and those 3 winners would play the top team in the division. So the top team would get a bye instead of the top 2 teams.
The top team in the conference?
In the conference, yeah. So then, of course, the Players Association said, this is news to us. We haven't agreed to
like that.
Collective bargaining.
Leave it the way it is. That's ridiculous.
Well, they always want one more game, that much more money. It's the National
they keep
Football League.
fans excited. One more team that can make it.
Sure. Well, I mean, because there'll probably be 4 or 5 teams competing for those final 2 spots. So, pretty soon it'll be, some people have argued about high school, said, well, it could be an open tournament for the postseason. So every team could play in the postseason. So you'd have the 300th best high school team playing in the tournament.
But the funny thing though, Ron, we remember when it was an American League and National League team, and one team, the winner of each team. And baseball was unbelievable back there. Back then, you didn't need so many teams making the playoffs because you enjoyed the game of baseball. Wherever your team ended up, if it was 4th place, it was fine. And they didn't have to win it and make the playoffs.
Right.
And that's how much we love the game. And nowadays, to be interested, your team has to be battling for the playoffs. It wasn't like that years ago, Ron, when people really loved the sport.
The other thing is, there'll be, every year there's craziness. Last year there was a poll. What percentage of fans thought that the Patriots would go 16-0 during the regular season? And over 50% of people said that they'd be undefeated. That's crazy talk. Now, similarly, there's this, we can trade Ryan Mallett and a low draft choice for Andre Johnson. Okay.
That's what I heard about today, too. They're still talking about it.
People are nutcases. Andre Johnson's a perennial all-star, even with a not-so-great quarterback down in Houston. He is older. He didn't show up to organize team activities in Houston, so he's obviously making his statement he wants to go. But he's still getting paid a ton of money. I don't think the Patriots would even have money under the salary cap to take him if they wanted to.
Ron, look at this team though, the Patriots. Just look at them with another real good tight end. I mean, they would have a chance. I mean, they could be the favorites to win the Super Bowl over Seattle. When you really think about it, the team they've put together. If they had, Gronkowski's going to, if he's healthy all year, right, that'll make up for it. What do you think about that 6'8" tight end that they're high on?
Oh,
They talked
right.
to his college coach, and he said he was out this year.
He was a
injured.
basketball player.
Yeah, and he was injured this year. And he says he's really, really talented. He's really good, near the end zone. So who knows? Maybe they got us finding him.
Yeah, we'll see. And Ben Watson's brother.
Yeah,
they
he's
also-
6'2", though, isn't he?
I thought he was taller than that. We'll see. You never know with young players. Every year there's some player that is makes a big impression early.
You have to be excited about them, Ron.
Oh,
You have to
absolutely.
be excited about that team. The defensive line is going to be strong. The offensive line is going to be very strong.
Well, the big thing is they've got two real cornerbacks now.
And then they got Ryan, second year. He was real good.
He's a good player.
Bernard.
And Harmon. So Harmon may be back with McCourty. McCourty was named one of the most underrated players on ESPN.com.
And then their last two picks weren't bad. The end from Michigan. What did he catch? 70-some passes?
Gallon. I
He's
think
not
was his
real
name.
quick, but who knows? If he's a player, and then they got that 5'8" cornerback that they got in the 6th round that everybody's saying is really quick, runs a 4.3, so who knows?
Well, there's always something new in the National Football League, and for example, it could be the Washington politicians or the Washington Capitals.
You think they're going to change it?
No. I think Redskins fans don't want a different name, and
Why do the Indians want to change it? I mean,
well, I
to me,
guess
they should be proud of it. To me,
I mean, I guess a lot of is how you market things. If you have this kind of pejorative, quote, drunken Indian approach that Native Americans have been tarred with over time, it's very different than if you look at, for example, attack helicopters in the U.S. Army. You have Apache helicopters, and you have Comanche helicopters, and you have Iroquois, because those, it's in the industry, it's called death from above. I'm not saying that's a good thing, it's just what it is, and the military has a, well-respected position in society for obvious reasons. But, there's I think it's the University of South Dakota, they're the Fighting Sioux, and they have a benefactor who paid over $100 million for a spectacular hockey rink. And all through the hockey rink are Native American spectacular artifacts. And they said, and the people are trying to get them to change the name of the school. He said, well, if you change the name of the school, I'm taking my hockey rink back. You can't use it anymore. Yeah. So, but now there's other things going on. There's the NBA playoffs, which are pretty interesting. LeBron James looking like he's going to his 4th straight NBA championship. Last night, Paul George was absolutely insane during the 4th period.
and they only won by 3.
And they only won by 3 somehow.
And James had his worst game he's ever had.
He only played 25 minutes and had
foul
trouble.
Well, scored less than 10, right?
I don't know how many
He didn't
scored.
score many, and
But
they still just won the game.
George was just throwing in stuff from the street, and it was a great game. But I don't see Indiana doing that too much.
I think it's going to be San Antonio, Miami, and I hope San Antonio beats them this year.
Well,
Even though I can't stand Popovich.
San Antonio's still very strong. Oklahoma City's young and athletic. I think if Ibaka can hold up, it'll be really interesting. Durant hasn't totally gone off, but he's always exciting to watch. Terrific talent.
40 points by Westbrook the other day.
And you probably heard that the most hated man in America is Donald Sterling. Came up at 92% of all things. Who would have guessed that? I mean, a guy who most of us couldn't even named 2 months ago becomes just ahead of O.J. Simpson.
Do you think people really hate him? I mean, they say they hate him. Or do you think some people feel sorry for the guy? More sorry for him?
I just think obviously he's a troubled guy.
I would hate him if he was like in his 60s or 50s. I mean, he's probably felt that way his whole life.
I think for the most part,
But-
if we spend a lot of time hating people, we're misdirecting our energy.
I mean, I just feel, like I feel more sorry for the guy. He's just not.
Oh, the other thing about the NBA is the draft lottery system fair? Cleveland gets the first pick again, 3 years out of 4, which is, I mean, I think they're probably going to trade the pick. I don't know what they're going to do, because to me, none of the top players are going to come in and be immediate franchise turning around players, whether it's Embiid, Parker, or Wiggins. They may be good players, but they're not going to take Cleveland to the promised land overnight.
Yeah, and I have a bet with a lawyer in work. He's saying Wiggins is going to be picked before Parker, and I says, no way. So, I told him, I says, I watched Parker play. Parker, to me, is way better than Wiggins. And I think Wiggins will go, but they may go second and third now, from what I'm hearing.
Well, I don't think the Celtics are going to be able to trade the number 6. Maybe if they had 3 or 2 that they would have been able
You're
to
not gonna
trade
get
that
one
for
of those
Love.
3,
No.
yeah.
So, to me, I think they're going to go for Noah Vonleh, the kid from Indiana, because they need a big guy more than anything else.
How about that kid from Australia?
I think he'll be drafted in the top 5. So, I mean, obviously.
Gordon, too.
Well, Gordon's the kid from Arizona.
Smart.
Well, he's sort of.
Smart, they say, is another
9'10".
Wade.
Yeah, 9'10" for him. Big scoring guard. So, I mean, there's going to be some good players. I really like Adrian Payne, the kid from Michigan State. The problem is that the Celtics already.
Great guy. Great guy.
Right, they have that position covered with Olenek and Sullinger. So taking another power forward doesn't seem rational. You need
a guy in the middle who can make players change their shots. I mean, we don't have no one. Not only who can't block a shot, who can't make a player change his shot. That's a key.
Oh, absolutely. And I just don't know if that guy's there.
And Love doesn't do it.
No.
Love can't do that. He's more offensive.
Now, you never know. I don't think.
How about the kid? Did you
The
say
kid
the kid
from Houston?
Indiana?
Yeah, Noah
That's the kid you
Vonleh,
like.
yeah.
I think they're going to get him. That's
Yeah.
what I heard. But I don't know if he's tall enough, though, right? Is he?
He's like 6'10".
Is he 6'10"?
Yeah.
They say
I think he's
6'10",
from
and they end
Haverhill.
up 6. He is.
Okay.
He ends up 6'6.5" or something.
I hope not. But, that would
I
be
mean,
my
look at
guess.
Sullinger.
And then, I would not be shocked if they can somehow move Rondo.
Oh, they got to move him.
That Napier, that's a real possibility.
I cannot watch him with him. I can't watch them with him. I just can't stand him. Just the way he plays the game.
Well, I think Bradley made some progress this year.
Yeah, Bradley, what a good. I'd love to see Napier and Bradley at guard.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Trade Green away. Get a pretty good 3 player, and if they trade Rondo away, maybe they can get a guy in the middle.
Now, you never know if a kid like Stoskis, the kid from Michigan, could drop a little bit. He's kind of a 2-3, but the kid can really shoot. He handles the ball okay. I don't know if he can play defense in the NBA.
But it's going to be interesting. Like they said, it could be bombs away this summer with the Celtics trading, and I just hope that they go crazy. Just go crazy, because I don't want to watch the team the way it's presented right now. I like Olenek. I like him. I like Bradley. What a good point guard. I'd love to see Bradley playing with Napier.
Well, we'll finish up with high school lacrosse. The girls' team unfortunately got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs by Triton last night. I saw the first half of the game. I am no expert on lacrosse. I just say that Triton was able to maintain possession a lot better than Melrose and got more opportunities there. It was a really bitterly cold, tough night to be out for post-Memorial Day. And the boys play Sunday. The boys have been really on a roll. Beat Wakefield, had won, I think, 11 matches in a row, and they're ranked in the top 25 on ESPN Boston. So what a great class this has been for these seniors.
Oh.
Hockey, they had outstanding success. Football, they went to the state semifinals. And here they are doing really well in lacrosse.
Well, they probably have the best athlete they've ever had at Melrose High School, and Eric Mercer, when you really look at it. I've been watching high school sports. I've said a few players before I saw Mercer, but Mercer, he was probably definitely one of the top 2 or 3 football players I've ever seen at Melrose. He's one of the best hockey players I've seen. I haven't seen that much hockey, But in lacrosse, he was a great lacrosse player, you know, captain of all 3 teams. So, I mean, you have him, you're losing that class. That class, DeRaphael, DeRaphael played baseball, but he played hockey and football. And that whole class was really strong.
Well, and you have on the girls' side, you have Annalisa DeBarry, who won a state championship in volleyball.
And how about our little pal there, Ian Morrison? Did you read that?
No, what happened?
Ian and she was on the relay team with the Barry, the 4x100, and Ian on the long jump. The long jump ended up in second in the Middlesex League. Little freshman.
Wow, she's only about 5 feet tall.
And they're talking, oh, she's gotten taller.
Oh, okay.
And they're talking about her as being a superstar. She's going to be another Olivia.
Oh.
Olivia Downey. You know, we had both of them in basketball, but Ann had an unbelievable season, and they're still going in the States or whatever.
So our greatest success is coaching our players who leave the sport for another sport. That's basically
But she's
what
still
you're saying.
playing. She's still playing basketball. But
All
that's
right.
great to see because we always
Yeah.
said you're going to be unbelievable in track.
Well-
But one thing about the girls' lacrosse team, it's so important. They've got to get more aggressive. I've seen a lot of the games. As a matter of fact, Jeff's done a great job this year of televising, doing the games. You know, I've really enjoyed it. And I've seen a lot of the games, most of the games. They got to get more aggressive. They're talented. They can pass. They understand the game. But they have to get more aggressive. They got to get those loose balls. They don't get enough of the loose balls, and it kills them.
Well, congratulations to all the athletes, graduates or not. We know you're going to work hard in the off season to come back even better. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.